Hi class, today we are going to learn to represent and interpret data on something called a line plot. The data that we are going to be showing on these line plots is measurement data. So first, let's review what we've learned about measurement. Here I have some red lines, and we're going to use this ruler to measure it to the nearest quarter inch. Remember, a quarter inch is the same thing as a fourth inch. So I'm going to take this ruler, and do you remember how I have to line it up? Would this work? Nope, it wouldn't. We have to line up the end of our object, or the end of our line, with 0. So I'm going to put my ruler right here. Let's look how far this line goes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 full inches plus 1/4, 2/4 inches. So we would say 6 2/4, or 6 1/2. So we would write 6 1/2 inches. All right, now let's try this one. Take my ruler again. I'm going to line up my 0 with the end of the line. This one, it's kind of right in between two spots. So we're going to measure to whichever one it's closest to. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 full inches. And it's kind of between 8 and 8 1/4. Now, to me, it looks like it's a little closer to 8. So I'm going to say, let me remove this out of the way. I'm going to say that this line is, one moment, sorry about that, is 8 inches long. Okay, let's do this bottom line here. Switch my tool. Okay, I'm going to line it up with the 0. There we go. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it's kind of in between 6 3/4 and 7. What do you think? I actually think it's a little closer to 7 inches. So I'm going to say that this one is 7 inches long. Okay, let's try a few more. This time, when I put the ruler there, I'm going to pause, and I want you to figure out what you think it is, and then I will tell you what I think it is. Okay, let's look at line D. I'll line it up, give you some time to count. How long do you think this line is? I would say it's a little closer to 3 1, 2, 3/4. It's between 3 1/2 and 3/4, but I'm going to say 3 3/4. I think that is probably the closest. So I'll put a big 3 and then 3/4. All right, let's try this next one. How long do you think that line is? I think we can probably all agree that one's an easy one. That is just 8 inches long. All right, one more. Maybe I'll scooch it just a tiny bit over. There we go. What do you think? If I was grading this on a worksheet, I would probably accept 2 answers because it's kind of smack in the middle of 2 measurements. I would say it's in between 5 and 5 1/4 inches. Now, it's kind of hard to tell which one it's closer to. I'm going to say 5 1/4, but like I said, I would probably accept either one, 5 or 5 1/4, because it's pretty hard to tell. Forgot to move the ruler back that time. Okay, so now that we remember how to measure things, we're going to learn a way that we can organize that measurement data on something called a line plot. So before we start making line plots, let's take a look at what a line plot is. It's probably new information for you. Okay, here's an example of a line plot. A line plot is essentially a number line with information plotted on it. So let's look at the parts of a line plot. Just like the other graphs you've learned, pictographs and bar graphs, line plots have a title. So this one says Classroom Caddy Pencil Links. That's the title. So a classroom caddy is kind of like a a little plastic tub, the thing in your classroom that you probably had a bunch of pencils in. So someone probably took one of those caddies and they measured the lengths of all the pencils in there. Okay, so that's what the title is. This is showing us the classroom caddy pencil lengths. Then it also has a horizontal number line. Horizontal means side to side. And the number line might have whole numbers like this one. It might have fraction numbers. It might go like 0, 1/2, 1, 1 1/2, 2, 2 1/2. So you'll see a couple different kinds throughout this lesson. A line plot will also have a label with the units. So the label is telling us what these measurement numbers represent. And these numbers represent the length of pencils. And then we have to say what unit. Is it centimeters, inches, feet, yards? Those would be some big pencils. In this case, the unit is inches. So these are lengths of pencils in inches. And then the last part of a line plot is or are the symbols. And typically a line plot will have X's. The X's will all represent one thing. Okay? The most of them that we're going to do, we are going to use X's. Now, just like with picto and bar graphs, we have to ask ourselves some questions. So first, what kind of data is being collected? So if you were the one making this line plot, what is the data that you collected? Well, the data you collected is the length of pencils. Then you want to think, what unit am I using? And I already told you the unit is inches. We need to look and see what is the least value in the data set. And what that means is what was the shortest pencil, essentially? What was the least number of inches? And that would be 2. What was the longest pencil length, or what is the greatest value in the data set? Well, the longest pencils were 8 inches. So we need to make sure our number line can go from 2 to 8. And this one goes from 0 to 9, so will all our data fit? Yep, it sure will. Now, in order to make the line plot, we need to know what our symbols represent. What do you think each one of these X's represents? Well, think about what we're measuring. What are we measuring? We're measuring pencil length. And so each of these X's represents one pencil. So let's look at this chart here. They measured the pencils and some of them were 2 inches long. How many of the pencils were 2 inches long? 3. 3 pencils were 2 inches long. So 1, 2, 3 pencils were 2 inches long. That's what this is showing us. How many pencils were 3 inches long? 5. 5 of the pencils measured at 3 inches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pencils were 3 inches long. Now, I'm not going to go through all this with you, but I want you to take a look at this line plot and see if you can figure out how many pencils measured 7 inches long. Okay, well, let's find the 7 inches. Remember, these are our inches down here. 7 inches. How many pencils were 7 inches? Just 1. How many pencils were 5 inches long? You're right, it would be 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then once you have a line plot like this, you'll start to answer some more complex questions, like how many more pencils were 8 inches than pencils that were 7 inches? And so in that case, you would say, 6 of the pencils were 8 inches. 1 pencil was 7 inches. So how much more is 6 than 1? 6 minus 1 is 5. So just like with a pictograph and a bar graph, you will be able to answer all kinds of questions using data that is shown on a line plot. All right, in part 2 of this lesson, we are going to take some data and we're going to make a line plot together.